Hi everyone, Tom West here, just with kind of a how-to video for a research poster. I was asked to do this for the first time, when we were graduating our first doctoral class. That first doctoral class we had here at CalU, they all did dissertations. So the research posters were very similar because they were doing a research poster that fit, an experimental type of a study. So we've had to kind of tweak this a little bit and change things around a little bit, and now kind of give people some more flexibility depending upon if they're doing an experimental type of a study or a portfolio. So anyway, the purpose of this presentation is to do really two things: to talk a little bit about a research poster, what should be in it, both for a poster that would be presented at a conference, but also a poster that we would present at our culminating event when you graduate here at CalU. And then, so the first part's to do that, kind of talk about what should be in this poster and how you want to present it. The second part's more mechanical, how you can edit this template that I'm going to provide for you all. And the mechanics of working within the poster and the template, but then also working with your committee to make sure that they're cool with what you have in the poster and so on, because it's a reflection on them as well as a reflection upon you. Anyway, so what is a poster presentation? The poster presentations I've done at different conferences involve typically some type of research or a project that I've completed, and then I want to share that information with others because they should theoretically find it interesting. It may change their clinical practice. In my case, it was athletic trainers or athletic training educators. So I had this poster presented for them to be able to see what I did, what I found, did it help or not. Anyway, this is just an example of our template and of a research type poster that you may present at a conference. Really, I'm just providing this one because it gives you an idea of the layout, how it can look, and so on. But the poster presentations at a professional conference often involve, a period of time where your poster is hanging, people can walk by and look at it and so on. And then typically a period of time where the authors would stand next to their poster. So if someone, an attendee wanted to ask you questions, they could. So it is both a kind of a static, asynchronous type thing where people can look at your poster, but then also a period of time where you're typically there to ask or answer questions about your research, about what you found, what it means, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, at our CalU event, you're going to hang your poster up. Attendees, administrators, other students, faculty from the program, and anyone from the CalU community may come by and look at your poster. And then you will have a period of time where you're standing there at your poster, and people can ask you about your research, or about your portfolio, or about, some aspect of the service or the teaching or the scholarly things that you did during your time in the program. And obviously, it's a chance for them to learn more about you, more about our program, and more about, again, kind of what all you've accomplished over your time here. The posters are also a marketing thing for Cal, right? We want, if you're at different conferences, we want them to clearly identify that this is research, this is information that was conducted at CalU. Even if you're somewhere else at that point, we want it to also be a reflection of CalU and let people know the great things that are happening here at CalU. And that's why we have this heavy CalU branding on the website or on the poster with information on how to get to our website and so on. So the goals of the poster presentation are really multiple. We have a lot of different goals here. The poster should be easy to read. Any research poster or a poster that's being presented should be easy to read from a few feet away. And that's why I do have in the template some different aspects about font sizes and so on. So stay within those recommendations and when you're putting this poster together. Remember, when you print it, when we print these posters, they're going to be like 3 feet wide and so on. So while the font may look small when you look at this here, remember it's going to be printed much larger, and you want it to be readable from 3 to 4 feet away, and so on. So you can use a fairly small font when you compare it to the fonts at the titles and so on. You do, if you're doing a experimental type of a study, you want to have set sections and titles, and I will go over those when we look at the mechanics of these slides or these presentations. And then if you're doing a portfolio, we also want to have those 3 main sections, your vision and so on, so that all of the people who did an experimental study, their posters are going to look somewhat similar. Obviously the content's different. And then everybody that does a portfolio, your content or your posters are going to look similar, obviously, but the content is different. So I do want to go over that mechanics as well and talk about this. We do want some uniformity from poster to poster. So sorry if you feel that we're stifling your creativity a little bit, but if you have questions, again, ask your committee, or you can ask me if it's related to making the poster for the class. But again, we want to stay within some limits, but you can still be somewhat creative, and I'll talk about that when I look at the mechanics of the poster creation. While the templates will be the same regardless whether or not you did a dissertation or a portfolio, the sections are going to be very different. And again, that's reflected on the 2 examples of the templates that we gave you. But the dissertation poster and the portfolio poster are going to start with a title and authors and affiliations. And again, the title should be, again, the same as approved by your committee. For the portfolio people, that title may be similar to your vision, but again, maybe written in a different way. The authors for both the dissertation and the portfolio should include your committee. Certainly on the dissertation, you have a very specific committee. They reviewed your proposal, your defense, etc., and make sure they're all listed with their names and appropriate credentials. Same thing for the portfolio, although you have, I guess your authors would be your advisory committee, that has reviewed your portfolio throughout there. I do think they kind of have less of a tie and an ownership of the stuff you've put together, but I think they should still be acknowledged. The affiliations for your authors, so most of us are going to be CalU, but again, if you go out, you get a job at, East Stroudsburg or some other university or some place of work, you can list that as your affiliation. Maybe not as important for your on-campus CalU event, but if you go present this at a conference, certainly it's a way to market your business or your company that you work for. So you can list multiple affiliations. Typically you put, an asterisk next to one person and you list CalU. You put a hashtag next to the next person, and then you list where they work and so on. But again, include those affiliations. Please make sure you spell your authors' names correctly, get their credentials right, whether they have a PhD or an EDD and so on, and limit any credentials to just a handful. You don't put more than 3, certainly. But again, check with your co-authors to see what they want as far as their information. Obviously, on the portfolio poster, you're also going to include your vision statement, kind of big and bold, because that's very important, as well as your research foci and your principles, and then your main 3 sections. For the dissertation poster, it's going to follow fairly closely to what you would include in an abstract, a research abstract, and include an introduction, purpose or objective, subjects or participants, their information, demographics, and so on, methods that you utilized, results, conclusions, and references. And then both posters could include acknowledgments. Again, if there's someone that's not an author, a co-author, but that you want to acknowledge, you can include them there. Someone helped you with your stats or someone helped you with something else, that's fine. Also, you could acknowledge if you received, funding for your study or something that would be appropriate also, so people know that you received funding or supplies or equipment from a particular group in conducting your research or your projects. Anyway, let's take a closer look at the mechanics of the poster, and that'll get you thinking more so about what you may include and so on. So the template, that I'm going to send you, basically a PowerPoint document that I'm going to make available for all of you, is going to include 3 of these posters here. So you can see them listed. They're identical. Basically, what our marketing office here at CalU has done has created this blank template that basically is an image that sits behind everything you put into PowerPoint. Now, I know you've all used PowerPoint. You're probably pretty good at it. Most likely, you could be even better than me at it. But I do want to go over a couple things related to managing this document and this template. Obviously, we don't want you messing with any of the images, the red on the bottom, the red border on the top, and we don't want you to change a lot of the font colors and so on, just to keep things looking uniform. What you see on this first page is kind of an example of a poster that was created for a specific conference. That conference wanted an abstract included on the poster. Most conferences are not going to include that. So you'll see on the dissertation template, we don't have an abstract section. But it gives you an idea of what a real poster may look like with actual data and numbers and so on. You see that what the font sizes are. You see for the titles sections as well as for the text. It can be pretty small when you look at how big it is compared to the title. And that's fine. This is to be printed on a big poster. So again, people need to be able to read it from 4 or 5 feet away. Don't mess with the size of the poster. Don't mess with the dimensions of the poster to squeeze it smaller or so on, because it will really screw things up and make things look bad. So again, please keep all of that the same. So when you go and you look at the PowerPoint, the page setup, you'll actually see it's set up to be a 46-inch wide poster by 23 inches in height. So again, keep that consistent and don't mess with the sizes and so on. Anyway, so this is what the poster looks like. What you see here on the left are, again, there's basically 3 slides in this PowerPoint. The second slide is a dissertation template. So if you did an original research experimental study and that's what you're creating your poster on, you would utilize this template. Again, you can see up at the top, it's just a text box sitting over the images, and the text that's in there is at the size we'd recommend. If you have a very long title, you can shrink it a little bit. If you have a lot of authors or they have long names, you can shrink that a little bit, and so on. If you need to add additional affiliations, you can. But obviously, you and most of your committee are probably involved with the doctoral program. But if you have an outside individual, you could list their affiliation here as well. If a faculty member from Pitt or Penn State or some other school, you can list that affiliation here as well. And then use a asterisk to indicate who's from where and so on. What you'll see in this text here related to the introduction, I kind of give some information about what you would include in the introduction, what you would include in the objective, and again, your participants and so on. The toughest thing with posters is, it's like an abstract, right? You're going to be putting a summary of the information, the most important pieces for the person who is standing there reading your poster to understand what you did. So by all means, you have to shorten this and make it very concise and interesting for the reader. In some sections, like the methods, pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? If you, instead of describing how you set a person up to gather the data, put a picture of how you had them do it. We had if you've created or did a study utilizing foam rolling, take a picture of the person foam rolling. If you used a specific type of a measurement test or tool, take a picture of that measurement tool and include it in this document here, as opposed to describing it so that people can see it more easily. Same thing for the results. Instead of writing out what you found, if you can display a table or a bar graph or a figure instead, that not only conveys a lot more information in a smaller space, it's visually appealing, it draws people in, it lets them quickly see what you found, and so on. If you have images, obviously I've included some instruction on how to include them. Make sure they're very high quality. This format, TIFF format, is typically the best format for images and posters as they size up well. But remember, these images that you're going to put are going to be small on your screen, but when you print them, they may be several inches in size, or more. So you want to make sure they're very high quality so that they look good. Also, don't squeeze them so the people look all skinny or squeezed or all wide because you've changed the dimensions of the poster in one aspect but not the other. If you need a caption, by all means do so, and feel free to put that in a smaller font size. So if you need a description of the picture, feel free to include captions and so on. And then obviously there's conclusions, references. The references that you list here are not all of your references. They're only the references used in the poster. So keep that in mind. And then your acknowledgments would be individuals that helped with this project. They are not your co-authors. We know they helped. It's others that maybe helped. And then any funding agencies or people that provided you equipment and so on. You can include the name of those companies or their logo and so on. A lot of you may not have any acknowledgments. When it comes to the portfolio template, same thing. You'll have a title for your portfolio and then obviously the authors' names and so on. And then we've created these boxes where you can put in your vision statement, your principles, your research foci. You can change the size of the text box. You can also change the size of the box itself if you need to. So again, make sure that they are still centered and that they are similar to the box on the other side. But again, feel free to resize those boxes should you need to. Again, add your information. And then obviously you're going to have a short description of your scholarly activities. You can include images if appropriate, abstracts, and so on. But, again, be creative here. Make it look visually appealing, but also clear to the viewer as to what you did and all the fantastic things you learned and found and so on. So again, you could include copies of slides from your teaching presentations if you wanted. You could include a picture of the class or the place you did your service activities and so on. Try to include some different media to make these things interesting and pop out to the people that are viewing these posters. Again, any of these posters you're going to need to get approved by your co-authors. They all should view them. They should have a chance to provide feedback because their names are going on these as well. So make sure that you get that feedback and so on. You don't need to do that for within my class if you don't want, but before you obviously get this thing printed to be utilized at our graduation event, you're going to want to get these posters okayed by your committee. Anyway, as you're working with the templates, don't hesitate to shoot me a question or an email if you have a question about them. Also, feel free to reach out to your committee chairs or Mark as you have questions as well. That's it. Hopefully this presentation is a little bit helpful. We'll talk more about kind of the due date for these posters in my class within the course. Anyway, that's it. Have a great day.